Hi, and welcome. It's Patrick Donahoe. We get asked all the time about the mindset and approach to the wealth building strategies we teach here at Paradigm Life. Today, we're diving in deep to share the background, best practices, and benefits of maintaining your new financial mindset as you face new financial opportunities and some of life's biggest changes. So let's get started. Hey, everyone. My guest today is someone that's really special to me, and he has been with Paradigm, man, 7 years, 8 years,
Yeah,
something like that.
been here since fall of 2012, so
That's incredible.
goes by fast.
It does. And we have kind of a running joke because I walk by your office and I say hi, and the danger is us like starting to talk because it never ends. It goes on. I don't know what our record is, but it's definitely like
Yeah.
over, an hour and a half, 2
Yeah.
hours probably.
Well, you always stop in and say, "Hey, I'm just hurrying off to this appointment, and I got like 2 seconds," and we end up talking
For like an hour.
yeah,
Crazy. But Justin Atkinson, he's a guest today, and we're going to be getting into money mindset or financial perspective. And this is really important because the way in which we view the world oftentimes is very narrow, and there are so many different perspectives out there. And with what we experience in society, those perspectives kind of converge, and so sometimes it's difficult to tell, what's good, what's bad, what's true, what's false, right? So when
Mhm.
somebody adopts the perpetual wealth strategy as a means to achieve their financial goals, a mindset sets in, and a mindset, I would say, is very important to understand because this is not the most common way in which people are managing their wealth and their finances. Okay, this is
Mhm.
definitely, I would say, cutting against some of the grain.
Oh
So
yeah,
having
it's
the right mindset is
very
is
much so.
is vital. So what's the significant, to you and your experience? What's the significance of the right mindset when it comes to looking at just money in general, especially after someone has adopted the perpetual wealth strategy?
One of the biggest things that I notice a lot with clients is that what we're teaching isn't the typical thing that they run into. So what's essential is that they've got to be open to other possibilities. And without being open to other possibilities, what's going to happen is they're going to continually engage the old mindset or the old beliefs that they've been told,
Totally.
and it's going to get in the way of them fully experiencing what this system does. So being open is absolutely essential.
I think it's interesting saying that because when you have an epiphany or an idea, like you can have this awareness or this, I should do this, I should do that, or a different behavior that may get you different results. Working out, I would say, is one of the more common
Mhm.
ones. But in order for it to become a part of how you operate, your MO, your modus operandi,
Mhm.
there's some repetition. There's some other things, involved. And that's what's cool, I think, about the foundation of the perpetual wealth strategy, the wealth maximization account. It creates this discipline of systematically putting money aside,
Yep.
and it works for us too, right? It's putting money aside, saving, and building up your reserves, building up your opportunity fund. The statements come and it's like, okay, you need to pay this, you need to pay this, you need to pay this. Some people pay on a
Mhm.
monthly basis, but still you have contributions that come every so often that essentially create a habit of putting money away, and you operate the rest of your finances around that.
Yeah. Yeah. It reminds me of a client that I was just doing a review with this week actually. And we're going over the policy loans and how she's using that to be able to pay off debt and actually take over some debt that has been in the control of another financial institution.
Mm,
And specifically, not even a financial institution; it was government.
mm,
And there was an energy, there was a feeling that she had whenever she made those payments to that institution. And now all of a sudden, she's done this policy loan, and she's paid that thing off, and now it's in her control. And yeah, she knows that there's still this system to it. There's this payment to it, and she's doing a great job of doing that. But she just kind of couldn't contain herself. So many times she's just like, I am so grateful to have this because now that I feel like I'm in control of this, now that energy, that feeling is starting to flow over into other parts of my life. And she says, I'm actually starting to feel this kind of very peaceful, solid foundation
hmm.
that is allowing me to feel more confident in going out and doing what I'm doing in my life. So it's actually spilling over into her entire life.
Well, this is we have had this next conversation several times, but it's the idea of control and what control gives us. And I think it's something people seek. People want to save,
Mhm.
they want to be disciplined, but they don't like to be disciplined. Meaning they
Yep.
don't want somebody else disciplining them.
Yep.
And that's what I would say is one of the main differentiating factors between the common wealth management strategies or wealth building strategies and what we advocate is we put our clients in the driver's seat, right? And so whether it's the way that they save, it's the way that they spend or finance, they have so much, I would say, control over how it's done. But in the
Mhm.
end, it's still done, and it
Yeah.
has that dynamic of certainty, right? That we often talk about.
But having that control is one thing, but then one of the mindsets that I see that a lot of clients have as a shift is that in today's day and age, so many people want something and they want it now and they don't want to wait. And if it's not done right now, then they'll move on to something else.
Yep.
And unfortunately, the wisdom of allowing something to play out and allowing it to have that time is in a lot of ways has kind of been forgotten about. And so what I love about these systems is that it not only gives them something that they can do on a daily basis, but it allows them to stretch out their mindset and to start to think of things not in today or this week or this month, but what's going to happen in a year from now? What's going to happen in 5 years from now? What's going to happen in 10 years from now? Because when they're setting up their own policy loan and the terms of how they're going to pay that back, they're starting to realize, oh, if I make this payment on it, it's going to take this long to pay it off. Now, whenever somebody has a credit card, use that specifically, they have a credit card. How many people know that if they're making a certain payment, how many people know how long it's going to take to pay that off?
Very few.
They don't think about that,
Mhm.
and all they think about is, oh, I can make this payment right now, and so it's just right now. But what's interesting is that the shift in mindset is that when somebody's actually in control of that policy loan and they're creating their own schedule to see what it's going to take, all of a sudden they're realizing, oh, if I do this, it's going to take me this long. I don't want to take this long. So they start to prioritize
Mhm.
their money in a different way, which is going to be a much bigger benefit for them, even in a longer term.
So what is, we often talk about behavior and how essentially have behavior patterns. And this is adopting certain principles in certain ways of doing things financially. Like what are some of the long-term benefits as this way of managing your wealth uh, you know, b- creates new habits?
Well, when they start to see things more of a long term, it begins to again shift what they're doing right now. And I mean, we've had this conversation before.
Mhm.
The only time that I have any power or control over is right now.
Mhm.
And that's something I know that another client just recently too. They were saying a 401k. They're like, that's the stupidest thing I've ever heard in my life. And I'm like, well, why would you say that? And he said, because I'm giving somebody my money that I have no control over right now, and they're telling me I'm going to have access to it at some point way down in my life. He says, I'm probably going to be dead by that time. And he's like, so I'm giving somebody else control over something that I'm never going to use, possibly. And so what I'm seeing happening is that they're saying, okay, because they're looking at things more on a long-term basis and how long it's going to take to pay it off or what it's going to look like further down the road, they're starting to make decisions now that are different than what they normally would have made otherwise, which is going to affect the overall down the road and put them in a position where they want to get to. So I guess really what I'm saying is that it's allowing them to be a lot more conscious of the decisions and choices they're making now and how that's going to affect their overall picture.
And let's maybe tangent into this idea of knowing right now about certain things that are going to happen in the future and how it affects everything else in life. Because I would say money, if you're to boil down every different facet of life, whether it's your relationships, whether it's your finances, whether it's your health, if you're to look at every aspect of your life and choose one to let go. Most people would let go their finances, right? They wouldn't, sacrifice their spirituality for their finances. They wouldn't sacrifice their relationships for their finances, or most people at least, right? Uh, But the idea of money being one of the main contributors to stress in all of those areas is because of the degree of uncertainty that exists. And you and I
Yeah.
love the idea of uncertainty, variety, adventure, things that are different. And life would be boring if we didn't have those things. However, setting up your financial situation so that there is a high degree of certainty, it allows you to experience that uncertainty, not by having money in the market, not by trading this or trading that, or hoping that this cryptocurrency goes to the moon, or that this thing is going to pan out and make you $1 billion. It's this idea of it establishes a foundation so
Yeah.
that you can look to the future knowing certain things are going to happen, okay, and essentially be present to the things in life that bring uncertainty but are healthy, whether
Yeah.
that's working out or going to movies or going on a vacation
Yeah.
or starting a business, or there's the list goes on forever.
Yeah. Yeah. It to me, as you're saying that, it it unlocks a whole nother world that people normally don't have access to because they're
Yeah.
so concerned and stressed.
Yeah.
And when they're sending so much energy to the concern and stress, that energy is going to concern and
Yep.
stress. And so there's nothing left that they can use to focus in another area
Hmm.
that can start to create more possibilities. So yeah, so this whole idea of having the foundation, that's why I love the pyramid that we
The
talked about,
hierarchy of
the
wealth. Yep.
hierarchy of wealth, and how they set that foundation. And once you got that set, then all of a sudden you've got something you can stand on. And again, that goes back to my client that's saying, I just have this overall sense of well-being that I didn't have before. And that, I tell you, when I heard that, I'm like, this is why I'm here. This is why I'm doing this at Paradigm Life and sharing this message. It's really powerful.
And that's, you look at the wealth maximization account and setting up insurance as your foundation. And I look at those tools being incredibly valuable. At the same time, what's more valuable, because tools are only tools, it's how they're used that where the value lies. But how you essentially build in these, as we've been mentioning, habits and ways of doing things. Okay, it produces a lifestyle that's up here, because most people, if you really boil down life, people make decisions and do things because they want certain reactions, they want certain
Mhm.
emotions, they want to feel a certain way. And most people want to feel confident and certain about their money. But at the same time, you're going to have curveballs, right? You're going to have things that happen, black swan events, whether it's life or financial or otherwise. You're going to have these events. That's part of life. So, looking at adopting this mindset, it does happen, over the course of time. But talk about ways in which we communicate with our clients, especially during those times where uncertainty could creep in a bad way.
Well, the one thing that happens to most people, and unfortunately, and I know you've talked about this a lot, but in America today, even a very wealthy country, there's very, very little amount of savings. And most of all, savings that somebody feels like they can put their hands on,
Liquid savings, yeah.
liquid savings. And so because of that, whenever you have these kind of curveballs thrown at you in life, um, again, stress level goes way up. And now all of that energy is focused on that. And so, with what we're doing here, and as they're building up money inside of this is money that's accessible. It's accessible regardless of age, regardless of financial status, regardless if you have a job or don't have a job. It's accessible. And because it's accessible, now all of a sudden, when these kind of dire moments come up, there's not the high amount of stress and anxiety that goes with it. There's this sense of peace that's saying, "Oh, I actually have something that can address that." And yeah, you're still going to have a situation where you're accessing money from the policy or borrowing against it and set up a way to pay it back, but again, you're in control as to how you pay that back, which therefore it keeps again the stress levels down. And now that gives you the access of energy that you have to continue to focus in other areas where normally it was all stuffed over here. And I know I keep saying that,
Yeah.
but it's so important for someone. And again, you don't really realize that's what you're doing until you have something else available. Well, this is something else available.
And that's where, there's a statement I like, which is, experiences trump beliefs. And the experience that you've had, the experience that we've had, collectively as a company with thousands of people, we come to the conclusions today because we see it consistently throughout the lives of people, of humans, and especially in the US, with the way in which we've been taught about, personal wealth management and what we should be doing with our money, whether it's the stock market or qualified plans or our retirement accounts. I look at what it all comes down to. It's, establishing a life of happiness, a life of fulfillment, a life that people love. And I think there's a formula to doing so, which we advocate in what we teach. We advocate in the principles of the Perpetual Wealth Strategy. And I would say discipline is one of the most important things to understand, but it's not being disciplined by somebody else. It's setting yourself up to be disciplined so that you have that degree of certainty that will allow you to really take advantage of the opportunities that you're going to have throughout your life.
That's an inspiring place to be. That's, to me, that brings forth inspiration. It brings forth empowerment, which again is an energy. And you're surrounding yourself with that kind of energy now by having this system. And it's just a whole different world.
What's cool is that it happens now, right?
Yeah.
I think the typical financial plan is to do something now for something that happens in the future.
Yeah.
But this is setting something up for right now so that you can live right now as opposed to living, for something in the future.
Which is the only place that I have any power over anyway.
Exactly.
So,
well, Justin, this
awesome.
has been awesome. We stuck to the time limit we were given.
Wow.
Is that amazing? That's like a first.
That's a first.
That's a first. But definitely, let's not make that a habit because we have some pretty cool conversations.
Won't take place.
All right, everyone. Yeah. Thanks for joining us today. We appreciate it. Join us on the next episode of the Welcome Series as we get into some of the most compelling benefits of the Perpetual Wealth Strategy and the 150-year-old foundation that makes them all possible. Thank you for listening to the Perpetual Wealth Strategy podcast. Be sure to visit the show's official page at paradigmlife.net for appropriate disclaimers and terms of service. Guest opinions are their own. If you require specific investing, financial, legal, tax, or any other specialized advice, please consult an appropriate professional or a wealth strategist at Paradigm Life. We welcome and appreciate reviews of the show. Head on over to iTunes or Stitcher to leave your review today. And don't forget to subscribe to the show to get access to every new episode and its exclusive content. Thanks again for joining us, and we'll see you next time.